First guest today is Marisa Moore, and she'll be helping us answer some of your top questions on nutrition. Marisa Moore is a trusted food and nutrition expert appearing regularly in national media outlets. Marisa has over 10 years of experience in working with clients to improve their overall health and wellness, including managing their weight, diabetes, high cholesterol, and heart disease risk factors. She also collaborates with like-minded organizations to help spread the great food and nutrition word via media and spokesperson work. Marisa, welcome to Good Talks with Healthline. How are you?
I am well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm so excited to have you. I'll go ahead and get started. One of the most popular questions that we get when it comes to nutrition is for a list of, quote, good versus, quote, bad foods of foods. So what is your philosophy on this?
I get that question all the time as a dietitian, and my take is to get rid of the list. There's no real good or bad foods, and what I find is when we have those lists, it sort of demonizes foods, and it introduces guilt. And the truth is, when we deprive ourselves of the things that we really like, a lot of times it backfires. The research even supports that it backfires, and we end up overeating. So my philosophy is to really get in touch with what you actually like and what works well for your body. Have a little bit of the regular ice cream if that's what you really want, so that you don't end up going overboard on the sort of light stuff later.
Yeah, so building a healthy relationship with our food. And my next question is, with many of us turning to food for comfort in these challenging times, do you have any good advice on how to recognize triggers for emotional eating or stress eating?
Yeah, listen, I don't think any of us have ever lived through what we're dealing with right now. So the first
Yeah.
thing is to really give yourself some grace and know that sometimes you want that comfort, because food is connected to happy feelings and simpler times, just kind of longing for that. But if you do feel like maybe it's getting a little bit out of control, one of my big tips is to just sort of take a beat, take a step back, figure out what's really driving those behaviors. You might need to maybe write it down in a journal or some other way to just kind of step back and figure out what's really fueling those emotions or what's causing the stress, and actually dealing with that actual stress or the sadness or whatever that you need to deal with, versus always turning to food. But really important, give yourself some grace. Don't be so hard on yourself. We're all like digging the mac and cheese right now.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you for bringing up the journaling. I definitely agree. And I think that that's a really good way that I myself cope and process my emotions. So, and my next question is, we know that the research shows that restrictive diets can be harmful to us, both mentally and physically, as you just mentioned, but somehow it's still something we tend to go for when trying to manage our weight. What is a better way to go about managing our diet and our weight?
Yeah, the first thing is to really skip the notion that weight equals health, because there are so many other things that we can consider, and that's not always an indicator of health. So, I really like for people to take a look at those other numbers. How's your blood cholesterol? How's your blood sugar? What's your blood pressure? And then really important, what's your mental health? So look at all these other factors that could be at play in terms of figuring out what's really healthy. And so really focusing mostly on that. And when it comes to dieting, remember that diets, yes, you might be able to lose a little bit of weight in the short term, but unfortunately for most people, they are not sustainable. And it can sometimes set us up for this vicious cycle where you're losing weight, gaining it back, and you get into this really psychological trap where you're unfortunately not able to get beyond it, and it's more damaging. So try to stay away from the diets if at all possible, and focus on some of those other things to really figure out your better health.
And speaking of dieting, another popular topic in the diet industry these days is food sensitivity. Are there any specific symptoms our readers should pay attention to that may indicate food sensitivity?
This is a really popular question, but my thing is to really be really careful, because a lot of times now we're seeing all these things online where you should stay away from this or stay away from that. And sometimes it can feed into some fears, and we may or may not have sensitivity. So it's really important to figure out, one, if you actually do. And I'm going to go back to journaling here, because my recommendation is to meet with a specialist, talk to a healthcare provider, but you can give them some information. Maybe if you're noticing certain symptoms, bloating, a rash, or anything that's happening after you eat certain foods, go ahead and note that. Note those symptoms that come along with certain foods, and then you'll have something to share with your healthcare provider, and sometimes you can figure it out on your own, of course, but it's important to kind of track what's really causing that so you can identify the actual problem if there is one.
Thank you. And lastly, a question that is top of mind for the globe right now is increasing our immune system. Given your twin expertise from the CDC and as a nutritionist, what would you advise for those looking to strengthen their immunity?
Yeah, so what's really important is to remember that one, we don't have to have exotic superfoods in order to keep a good, immune system. What's really important is that we pay attention to what we eat, of course, wash our hands, stay away from sick people, but really important, making sure you manage stress and exercise. That plays a huge role in supporting a healthy immune system. Now, when it comes to nutrition, again, you don't have to go with any superfoods, just eating regular things, foods that are high in vitamin C, of course. So citrus foods, we're looking at leafy greens. We're looking at getting a variety of foods, a wide variety of foods, nuts and seeds, to make sure you're getting a balanced diet. That's really going to be the most important. Also staying hydrated. All those things play a role. But I want people to remember that there's not just one food that's going to support the immune system. It's really important that we eat a good variety, that there's balance, and that we do all those other things to make sure that our immune system is protected and supported.
Great, thank you. So it sounds like it's about diversifying our food options. So thank you for that. And Marisa, with that, I want to thank you once again for joining us with Good Talks with Healthline. It was amazing to have you today.
It was so good to be on. Thank you so much for inviting me on. It was fun.
Thank you.